Denny Hamlin has spent almost a decade refusing to hand Joey Logano anything easy. Bristol, Martinsville, half a dozen short tracks where these two turned racing into a grudge match. So when Hamlin walked into victory lane Sunday night and handed Logano total, unfiltered respect, something broke. This wasn't a rivalry ending. This was a rivalry getting real. Joey Logano dominated North Wilkesboro, led 323 of 450 laps. A career high. It snapped a winless drought stretching back to May of last year. Denny Hamlin ran him down all night in the number 11 and never got there. Second place. Best seat in the house for a performance he couldn't stop. And instead of excuses, Hamlin gave Logano the one thing rivals almost never give each other: credit in full. To understand why this matters, you have to understand what these two have actually been through. Hamlin and Logano aren't friendly rivals. They're the kind of rivals who've wrecked each other on purpose, who've had shouting matches in the garage, whose names get mentioned together specifically because short tracks turn their racing into chaos. That history is exactly why Sunday hit different. Logano wasn't just chasing a trophy. He was climbing out of a hole. Before this race, he sat outside the provisional playoff field, a former champion suddenly on the outside looking in. One win moved him from that danger zone all the way to 15th in points, with only 5 regular season races left to lock in his spot. For Hamlin, the stakes were different, but just as real. He's still sitting on top of the regular season standings. A runner-up finish doesn't hurt that, but losing this particular race to this particular driver on a short track where Hamlin has built his identity, that's the kind of result that lingers in a driver's head longer than the standings show. Here's what should actually alarm the rest of the Cup Series field. Logano didn't win this one on strategy or a late caution. He won it on raw pace. For 323 laps against a stacked field that includes one of the most relentless closers in the sport. That's not luck. That's a team that found something, and Hamlin's own words confirm it. He didn't blame traffic, didn't blame a mistake, didn't point to pit strategy. He said his team was a smidge off. In racing, that phrase is often more damning than it sounds. It means the driver did everything right and the car simply wasn't there. Now look at the short run detail. Logano himself admitted his weak point was the short run, and that Hamlin's pressure forced him to drive harder than he wanted early on. That's the tell. If Hamlin or anyone else figures out how to consistently attack Logano on short, high-intensity runs before he settles in, this dominance is not unbreakable. But here's the risk for everyone chasing him. Logano now has track position, momentum, and a playoff picture that suddenly looks a lot less desperate. Confidence in a sport is a weapon. A driver who was fighting for his season a week ago just proved in the most public way possible that he can still outdrive the best short track racer of his generation. Is this Logano peaking at exactly the right time, or is it a one-night flash against a Hamlin car that simply missed the setup window? That's the question every crew chief in the garage is asking right now. NASCAR fans are split, and both sides have a point. One camp is calling this the most impressive short track drive of Logano's career, a former champion reminding everyone why he's dangerous the moment his team finds speed. The other camp is pointing straight at Hamlin, arguing that a driver with his talent and his history at short tracks shouldn't be finishing second, full stop, regardless of how gracious he was afterward. And then there's the reaction to the moment itself. Longtime fans of this rivalry are almost thrown off by how much respect Hamlin showed. After years of tension between these two, watching Hamlin walk over and call Logano's drive wildly impressive felt less like sportsmanship and more like a headline on its own. Best case, Logano rides this momentum straight into the playoffs, using North Wilkesboro as the turning point of his season. He climbs the standings, arrives at the postseason as a team nobody wants to see, and reminds the entire garage why he already has championships to his name. Worst case, this turns out to be an isolated night. One perfect setup on one specific track, and Logano slides right back into the inconsistency that put him outside the playoff picture in the first place. While Hamlin's team regroups and reasserts itself almost immediately, which version actually plays out likely depends on one thing: whether Logano's team just found a real fix or just found one great Sunday. So here's the real question. Was this Joey Logano finding his form right before the playoffs, or Denny Hamlin having the one-off night nobody saw coming? Drop your take in the comments. Are you buying the Logano turnaround, or do you think Hamlin bounces back and takes this right back next week? If you want breakdowns like this every single race weekend, make sure you're subscribed to SportsWire USA, because this rivalry is far from over.